One of the things I wanted to just give you guys a heads up on this evening, we have a number of things that we teach that are not exactly the same as what is written in the DVSA books. And it's, if you've been to our webinars before and you've been following us, you will know that we go to almost like an advanced teaching process to give you a better awareness of what's going on around you, and also to help you develop habits that are much more effective within the driving circumstances and that go beyond what is in the normal driving environment. So what I'd like you guys all to understand is that we don't debunk what the DVSA say, we just make adjustments and give you further information to try and make things more logically better. Okay. So the key learning differences between what we provide you and what you might be getting from maybe your instructors as well. We are trying to bring the instructors on to learn these processes, but a lot of the stuff we teach you, the instructors might actually still be a little bit behind the curve and haven't updated their knowledge yet. But we try to keep ourselves fully on the development basis of where things are in the overall industry. So what our objective is to start by helping you identify what you don't know. Guys, imagine if you're going to do a test and you come to me and you say to me, all right, listen, I've got to prepare for this test, and let's call it the driving test. And then I sit you down and we do a mock test. And then I say to you, okay, now go and learn these things. And you're going to be a lot better have a greater chance at passing the driving test. The moment you do that, you know what to learn and you know what you don't know, and then can go and follow up and get to know what you don't know or correct what you are doing wrong. And that way you're not playing a lottery when you're doing the driving test. Because the first thing is, getting to the driving test is expensive. And what I mean is the lead up to the driving test is expensive. The day of the test is expensive. The actual test itself is almost impossible to find. There are so many things that can go wrong. And by making available to you online study material that can make a massive difference to your ability to do the test, you are getting extra hours which you won't get out of your driving. Imagine this. When you go to your driving instructor and he has to teach you all the online material we make available to you, he's going to spend anything from 8 to 20 hours more with you in the car than you can actually take off the website that we make all this material. It is behind a firewall, but we make it available to you. It makes a big difference to your ability to learn things. And I know a lot of people think, well, they look at the heading, like a typical heading we've got is critical things to learn about signaling. But if you haven't attended my webinars before, I will ask you a question, and I want you all to answer that question in your own minds right now. And I'll tell you, if you've been at my webinars, you'll know the answer. If you haven't been to my webinars and you haven't been on our BDS.AC, the academy, you will not know the answer. I can almost guarantee you. And the question is really simple. Do you know what the outcomes are that you are trying to achieve when you're signaling? Now, so if anybody would like to answer that, please, guys, show me your hands. Let's see who can answer this. This is a simple question, and this is just me demonstrating to you what the real problem here is. What are the outcomes that you are trying to achieve when you are signaling? And when you know that and you really buy into it, it changes the way you drive. Yeah, I see here people are saying, people tell road users your intention. Brilliant, guys, well done. That's one outcome. What is the other outcome you're trying to achieve? There are two. And the answer you've given me is what the DVSA will say to you. You are signaling to tell people what you are trying to achieve, to tell them where you're going. which is not wrong. It's nothing. But that's only one of the outcomes. It's only one of the outcomes. All I'm getting is intention, intention, intention. Guys, yes, you're right. Intention is one of the outcomes. But there's a second outcome. Yeah, your action is going to affect other drivers. Yes, they are. But it's still intention. Yeah, you want to get into the correct position, but you're telling, I'm going to the correct position. I'm just reading some of the comments that are coming up here at the moment that the guys are typing in here. Guys, I'm going to tell you, the other outcome you are trying to achieve is you're asking people if you can move into that lane. And if you have that, the problem that most people make is they say, okay, I'm moving into that lane, they switch on their signal, and then they move into the gap. And yes, they've told the people behind them, but they've done it in a way that there's not enough. The person hasn't let them into the lane. They've moved and forced their way into the lane. Now they've told them, and that's fine, that's all they have to do. No, what you should be doing often when you're in tight traffic is put on your signal and wait for somebody to let you in. You're asking with your signal. So the intended outcome is using your signal to tell people. And the second thing is asking people to whether you can come into the lane. Once you understand that you can also ask, it changes the way you drive. It's really, really important. But it's nowhere in the DVSA material. And your instructor will probably, if you say to him, look, I'm putting on my signal to ask, he probably won't know what the hell you're doing. You don't need to just tell people. You can also use your signal to ask. And then you can slow down in the lane where you're in and just sit there with your right signal on and wait for somebody to give you a gap. And normally the second or third car will open up for you and let you in, because you are using your signal to ask. They will naturally react to it. So that is an example of the type of stuff that we teach, which is different, right? Okay, so get to know what you don't know so that you can pass. That's what we want to do. Okay, so what separates a test pass driver from a road ready one? And the answer to that is habitual good driving practice. Having additional knowledge which will help you to be able to pass your driving test. And all of this stuff that we are dealing with, which we deal with all the time, originates from the BDS Academy side of our teaching, which, guys, is cheap. It's not even the price of a lesson, and you've got hours and hours of tutorial material there. You can decide what you know, what you don't know, and focus in on learning stuff you don't know. Now, normally what I say to people, where they make the mistake, is everybody has this idea. I've done my theory test. I know what I'm talking about. Your theory test is the foundation of the building. And the better you do that, the better it is. But it's not the application of the knowledge. So if you were to liken that, it's like somebody who goes to school and they learn all about how to weave cloth. Now they've got all the theory on how to weave cloth, but they've done very little practical weaving. Now when they become a weaver or apprentice weaver, they are learning how to apply the theory they've learned at school. And theory test is the same. Theory test is laying the foundation, so when you see a sign, you know what it means. But you don't necessarily know how to deal with that, with the implications of that sign in your practical driving. And that's what the BDS Academy is about. The BDS Academy is about you knowing how to deal with those things under the circumstances of where you are going to apply it to your driving test. Understanding what the critical examiner's mistakes are, what the mistakes are that examiners pick up on. And this is one that we have analyzed over years and years as well. If you go anywhere on the web and you ask, what do people fail on the most? And you will see it says observations at junctions, or observations on roundabouts. It's observations. The root cause is not observations. The consequence of the root cause is observations. But it's not observations. It's the consequence. Observations is the consequence of the root cause. The root cause is identification. Either not identifying what you're dealing with, or wrongly identifying what you're dealing with and not knowing how to deal with that circumstance. Then it becomes an observational fault. That's the root cause. The root cause is identifying what you're dealing with, and then understanding what the priorities are or the circumstances under which you can go or not go. And what happens is that can easily and does become an observational fault, because you miss a car or you don't know how to deal with it. That becomes an observational fault. But it starts by incorrect identification and not knowing how to deal with it. That's what. Okay, so this is Yolanda. She's checking, everybody's asking questions. Okay, so and a good example of that is coming up to a mini roundabout. First of all, you need to identify the mini roundabout. The moment you identify the mini roundabout, you should know, give way to the right, how a shield works, what shielding is, and what a lockup is. Those are things you need to know. You need to know and understand what a lockup is. Because if you get to a mini roundabout, and I can't explain these things, you have to go and look them up in our BDS Academy. But those are going to be things that will make you make a mistake on a mini roundabout. Because if you don't know what a lockup is, if you don't know what shielding is, and you don't know how the priorities work out when you've got a shielding or a lockup situation, you are not going to know how to deal with that roundabout. And then it becomes an observational fault. Simple as that. Okay, so what I said to you earlier, theory test, knowledge is the basis. You then take that basic knowledge and you have to apply it in your driving. And that's what the BDS Academy is about. How to apply that basic knowledge and to develop that basic knowledge into better structures so that you can easily identify what you're dealing with. And then mirror signal maneuver is not just decisions, but mirror signal maneuver cannot effectively follow if you haven't identified what you're dealing with. Open roundabout, spiral roundabout, all these other things are dependent on you knowing what you're dealing with. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you haven't identified it correctly, you haven't categorized it correctly, you won't be able to deal with it probably correctly, and you can end up with an observation fault. Okay, so here the adage is many learners fail not for lack of knowledge but poor use of it. It's not necessarily poor use of it, it's lack of knowing how to apply that knowledge that you've learned and not having developed it into something that is useful. Okay. So
what the question is, what does that mean? You have the knowledge but you don't know what to do with it.
You have the knowledge, but the knowledge isn't sufficient to give you don't know how to apply the knowledge. You don't know how to identify the situation correctly. Because, like for instance, identifying the mini roundabout, you know it's a mini roundabout. But when you get to the mini roundabout, you might know what the priority is. It's give way to the right. But that whole priority might change because you've got a situation where you've got shielding, or you might have a lockup. And how are you going to deal with those? If you still know it's a mini roundabout, but that doesn't mean you know how to deal with it because you haven't got the extended knowledge to deal with it effectively.
Okay, and the BDS Academy will assist with that.
BDS Academy has that in the system. It's there. All this is covered in detail in the BDS Academy. And it's now, if I have to sit next to the road and teach you that information, just that one aspect of the information, the mini roundabout, and the things that I've been discussing around the mini roundabout, you are going to pay me for an extra hour or an hour and a half of me sitting next to the road explaining all of that to you. Whereas you can go to BDS Academy and learn this stuff and save yourself money. It's there. It's not a problem. Okay.
We have somebody asking what is the cost of getting into BDS Academy.
So let me just show you guys. I'm just going to show you quickly. And you'll see you get this thing to fill in your email address. And there's the question we had earlier about our terms and conditions and things coming up. And then you fill in your information and you pay. Here's the payment on the right. It's £27.77 per month. There's the full amount. Now, guys, honestly, if you study this for a month, you don't need to. You can cancel your subscription. You don't need your second month subscription. Simple as that. It's not a problem. But you can get on there, study it for a month, get yourself ready, and then maybe you want to go back and cover some more lessons or just revamp it before you go for a driving test, then you can always go back and ask for a subscription again. But the material on there is worth hours of you sitting in the car with the driving instructor trying to explain things to you. And here we've done lots of work to get that stuff really well explained to you. All the information is nicely laid out there, and there's a lot of information there that extends your knowledge. Okay, all right, so let's carry on. Now, this two-directional driving, this is one of the things I tell people as well, and it's on there. Rear awareness saves lives, being more aware of your mirrors and how to use your mirrors. That's all on there as well. I'm going to take you guys through that just now and just do some things around this with you. And then mirror setup, this panoramic setup of the mirrors. This is so important. I was in a car with a taxi driver, a Uber driver, and he nearly took out cars on his left and took out cars on the right. And he had his mirrors completely set incorrectly. He couldn't see where he was going as he was changing lanes because he hadn't set his mirrors up. He was watching dangerous door handles. I can't believe people still teach that, because it's really not what the international driving standards are starting to use now. You mustn't be watching your door handles. It's just not the right thing to do. Here is the door handle on this is in the back end of BDS Academy. This is a full...
The cars are closest to you, bicycles and motorcyclists are closest to you, that they create problems for you. So if you can get your mirrors to increase your view around the car instead of focusing in behind your car, then you're going to be able to see the dangers that approach you much more better. And we just don't believe in this story that the door handles are dangerous. I've been driving now for 40 years now, and I've never seen a door handle jump out and hit a car, and not even any of my own door handles. Isn't that amazing? All this time, and door handles never posed a danger to my driving. So it kind of begs the question as to why we should be watching them. I wonder if anybody's thought about that. But anyway, I mean, we all tend to set our mirrors to watch the door handles. I hope that by the time at the end of the series, you will be sufficiently convinced to advance your driving to the point where you don't watch those dangerous door handles anymore. Okay, when we're driving on the road, the one problem that we've always got is that the moment the car sets off, the moment the car starts to move forward, it's also moving backwards. And
now, this video, for instance, is foundational for any person who's learning to drive. And I'll tell you what, if you watch this video, even if you're an experienced driver, you are going to get value out of this video, because this is advanced driving tuition. It's the next level, and it's there. All these things here are really, really important. One of the most overlooked sections in our thing is this risk assessment, and the reason we put it in there is because that is your way of keeping yourself safe in the long term. Having a consistent approach to assessing your own driving and making sure you don't make the mistakes that can eventually lead to an accident. Now, in this video that I've just shown you a very small portion of, I made it a bit faster as well. In this video, I cover the very critical things about setting your mirror up correctly. And honestly, guys, this video by itself could save your life. Just this video. We're not even talking about the rest of this stuff. Just this video can make the difference between you keeping yourself alive or not. Because it takes you to another perspective, gives you a new perspective on how you drive, and it will make your driving safer if you apply the rules that are laid out in this video. And that's what makes the difference. Okay, that's that one. I'm just going to take that one away. And then this was the one I asked you about, the signaling, the outcomes on the signaling. This is a video in the background as well. You can see it's a video. And there's the two outcomes, outcome 1 and outcome 2 that we spoke about earlier. And these things are all in this series. So what you can do is you can say, oh, I've gone over moving off and stopping. I know that. You can mark it and then not go back to it. Or you can say, okay, you want to go back to this video because you're still having some problems with this outcome 2 and understanding it correctly. If anybody of you or any one of you has a specific question around things on the videos, please come back to me if it's not properly explained. Okay, all right, so that's that one. Then the next one I'm going to chuck up on here is, who can give me the definition of a spiral roundabout? Anybody want to tap it into the discussion for us?
Yes, thank you, Chris. I think a spiral roundabout can be easily spotted when, you are within the roundabout, you can notice lines that promulgate within the roundabout.
Yeah.
A promulgated line that's just developed inside the roundabout itself. You will know that it's a spiral roundabout.
Correct. Yes. Brilliant. Well done. Well done, Kapari. That is good. Now, one last question on that. Where can you find in the categorization of roundabouts, there are 3 categories of roundabouts: mini roundabouts, open road roundabouts, and closed roundabouts. Which roundabouts can be marked as spirals and which one can't? Do you think you could mark a mini roundabout as an open roundabout?
Am I still?
Yes, Kapari.
I think you can find it both in a closed roundabout.
Open.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
But not
Yeah.
in mini.
Well done, well done, well done, well done, Kapari. Thank you so much for participating, Kapari. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Are you good? Okay, guys. So now all of that information is also on the system. So let me just put this up here. There's the spiral roundabout, identifying a spiral roundabout. This talks about how to spiral.
Your exit door. So if you're going to the third exit, you want to go in 3 lanes. 1, 2, 3. Follow that lane around, it will exit at the point you want to be. And if you need to go all the way around, then what you would do is drive in to the 4th lane. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's where it promulgates. And if you follow that lane around, that will drop you out at the exit you came out of. Now, these spiral roundabouts can be open roundabouts. In other words, you are on priority.
Okay, guys, so that is simply just about spiral roundabouts. How to identify them, and Kafari came up with exactly how to identify them. A spiral roundabout, you can see here, promulgates. At every exit, it promulgates a new lane, and the new lane develops, and then as it goes around, it spirals towards the outside, and then drops out at the other end. So these roundabouts are really useful, and they are becoming more and more used more and more. The other thing that also, these are all things that are not in your DVSA books. This is the navigation of open roundabouts and the structuring of open roundabouts, and the 3 rules that govern open roundabouts. So the entry, basically what it is a table, and the explanation of how that table is applied is part of this video. So in the video, you will actually see how that table
and just that you take up and what
the
your
actual
would be equal to 12 o'clock. If you're going to the exit, which is great.
And then it gives you a complete breakdown of how to apply that knowledge. And that knowledge is simple, but it makes such a big difference to the way you will do your driving once you understand this knowledge. Because that is one of the things that helps you identify what you're about to deal with, and then helps you get through that roundabout in a way that is acceptable to the examiner. And you're not guessing anymore. It's all put together in the system. Okay, all right. So there is, in all cases, identify mirror signal maneuver, start with full environmental scan. Well, you're keeping your mirrors up to date. Mirror confirms space, signal communicates maneuver with confidence, and glancing is not seeing. You need to understand this. This is something that a lot of people get wrong. When you're coming up to a giveaway line, your ability to see is dependent on your images that your eyes take up in sequence. And if that sequence of images isn't relational, you cannot see movement. Now, I don't know how many people understood what I just said. Basically, it's the same. Your eyes and mind work exactly the same way as a movie works. The talking movies, the way the movies started, where the images, you're seeing movement because your brain is picking up images that it compares to the previous image it had, and then it sees that there's a change in position of that person that it had in the previous image. So it recognizes there's movement. Now, if you don't hold your glance when you're looking, you cannot perceive movement. So you have to hold your glance steady for a little bit so that you can perceive movement, so you can see the change in the image to be able to perceive movement. But if your glance is just rudimentary, like very quick, you cannot perceive movement because your brain doesn't have a image to compare to the previous image. It has a flash of an image, it's a still, and now it has no further reference to work with, therefore it does not perceive movement. And you can test this. It's really interesting. So how would you test it? I'm going to show you at the end how you test it. Please bring it when I come off the screens. I'll show you how that works. Okay. An inadequate clearance. We did a good discussion around this earlier, what it is and how it works. So the experienced driver will scrape past the car on the left side. He won't touch it, but he'll be half an inch away, and the examiner will get back to the driving test center and fail him for inadequate clearance because he's got the experience to be able to drive like that.
The examiner gets nervous.
The examiner does get nervous, and the experienced driver, well, I didn't touch him. That's not the point. You didn't have half a meter to a meter between the mirrors. And the whole thing is you need to know that if you can't create that adequate clearance, don't go into the space. Okay, identification of hazards and planning. This is all part of it, guys. And then I'm just going to meeting traffic. Now here, this is interesting. A while back we did the meeting traffic and we spoke about the DVSA rule, where I said to you the DVSA rule mostly does not work. You cannot enforce the DVSA rule when you're on the road. And there is only two rules that count. And that is if you're in the tunnel, hold the tunnel and drive through and don't flinch. But if you're not in the tunnel, always give way. Simple. Those are the only two rules. And it doesn't matter where the cars are parked. Forget about that. If the other guy pulls up, then fine, go through the tunnel. If the other guy doesn't pull up, then you pull up. You always try and pull up first. And that way you never have a problem. But if you're in the tunnel, you mustn't flinch. You mustn't move over. You mustn't make the other guy think that there's enough space, because that's when the problems start. But if you're nice and positive, you hold your position in the middle of the tunnel, in other words, in the confined space. Hold your position in the middle of the confined space. The other guy has no option but to recognize that, and he won't come into the space and try and squeeze you. Those are the only two rules. I've seen this. We have this area that's quite long in front of near our house where we live, where there is a lot of parked cars on one side of the road. And you always get this situation. The person is coming down the road and he's got parked cars on his side of the road, but it's a long line of parked cars. So he moves into the tunnel section. And then somebody comes around the corner and he's of the opinion that that guy has to give way to him because the cars are parked on his side of the road. So he just drives in because the guy's going to give way, but the guy's got nowhere to go. And then the two of them stand in the middle of the road, bitching and spitting at each other because the one guy got in the tunnel. He couldn't give way. He was in the tunnel before the other car came, couldn't see it coming. And then the other guy coming thinks, well, it's my right of way, I'm driving through. Where's the guy supposed to go? And that's because that's how that rule doesn't work. But if the second guy coming had simply accepted that, okay, there's a car ahead of me, I must pull up, there would never be a problem, because he had space to pull up when he saw the other car, when he came around the corner. But because he's trying to impose the DVSA rule, it becomes a mess. And we see that so often. And the people, they have lots of screaming matches and hooting at each other across the road here. And then you can walk out and watch the circus. Okay, all right. Clarity over priority. Don't compete. Control with clarity. Be assertive, but not aggressive. I think that's really important. Be assertive, but don't be aggressive. And then finally, common faults. Late or missed mirror checks. Guys, I'm telling you, you need to know what your habitual mirror checks are and which mirrors you need to check for each circumstance. Turning left, moving out, going into the road, around the bus. Should you signal, shouldn't you signal, those sort of things. Unsafe passing clearance, that's inadequate clearance. Poor positioning in narrow roads, not using sufficient of the road or using the road incorrectly. Hesitant in the execution of IMSM. Misreading shared spaces, which we've discussed. Not knowing the advanced structure. Not knowing the structure, not identifying correctly. Not knowing you're dealing with a spiral roundabout. Not knowing you're dealing with an open roundabout, or not understanding the process through a large closed roundabout. Now, we hope that BDS learners will be perceptive drivers, understand why behind the actions. You must understand, I think that's really important. Why are you doing it? Why do you have to keep doing it? That's really important. And that's what we try and teach in the BDS Academy. Why are you doing it? What is it for? What is the purpose? And guys, once you've done the driving test, that why does not change. Therefore, the process should not change. You should just get better at using the process, because why does not change.
Why do you need to understand the different roundabouts?
Because you can't get to a roundabout, know how to signal, know what lanes to use, and understand how to approach it so that you don't make a mistake and you don't flatline the roundabout. You need to know the rules on the roundabouts are really important. It's about
rules different.
Yes, they do. They're for different types of roundabouts. If you can't identify the first thing is you've got to identify the rules for the different roundabouts are different. Many roundabout rules are completely different to open roundabout rules, and open roundabout rules are different to closed roundabout rules. And spiral open and spiral closed roundabouts are also different.
Can my instructor teach me?
You can ask your instructor, but the knowledge, I don't know if he knows. I don't even think most instructors know the classification of roundabouts. I'll be really honest with you. Ask him to tell you what the classification of roundabouts are. Start there. Does he know what an open roundabout is, and does he know what a closed roundabout is? And don't let him tell you, what did I hear the other day? An open roundabout is one where you can see across, and a closed roundabout is one you can't see across. I mean, that's not the definition of what an open or a closed roundabout is. I heard an instructor tell somebody that. Guys, no, they don't know. They really don't know. Okay. So knowing why and understanding why motivates proper usage and develops habitual good driving practice. Know why you're doing something and understand why you do something. That will help you to develop habitual good driving practice. Really, really important to latch onto that and do the best you can on the road. Developing the good habits now will save you tons of money, because you're not going to make accidents, and will also make it so that at the end of the day your driving remains safer and your insurance is going to be less, because you're not going to have accidents. Praise the Lord. I have been driving for a very long time and I have not had a single serious accident. And it's about having the rights, getting your skill sets honed and keeping your skill sets honed, and not taking shortcuts and not getting lazy. You're never just driving forward. That is in the mirrors as well. Master your mirrors so that you get the panoramic view. Control your space, understand how you control your space and how you become a thing, and then apply the knowledge with confidence. Knowing what the knowledge is, you can apply it. Not knowing what the knowledge is, you can't apply it. And then here, this is really important. Develop a considerate but selfish, the T got lost, but selfish driving style. Why? You need to be selfish, because if you are keeping yourself in your car safe, everybody else around you is safe. But if you can give people space, that should be an objective. But never do anything on the road that will compromise you or your passengers. You need to be selfish in that respect. But at the same time, you need also to make it more pleasant for other people by not trying to force your way into gaps, by being considerate and using a process of knowing how to actually ask to when you use your signals. Guys, I'm just going to wrap this up. All right, so here we are. We're at the end of the webinar. I'm going to drop this. I just wanted to do this, today's links. That first link is all our current material, free material and specials on BDS London today, and a little bit of a discussion around what we did today. And then this is the link for the Academy, BDS AC, and this is the link, www.roundabout.ai, is where you can raise a ticket.
Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this video and want to see more, head over to www.bds.ac, our interactive video e-learning platform. With BDS Academy, you can learn to drive online from the comfort of your home at your own pace, saving you both time and money. So, what are you waiting for? Visit www.bds.ac today. We'll see you there.